here, guys, and let me ask my two close friends like Dom and Jacob to come on the stage and share their views. Okay, Dom, would you like to go first?
Sure, sure. Thank you, and thank you for hosting this. I was very excited about all of the results. I was more excited about the transparency of some of the use cases, the new customer add-ons. You heard them name drop John Deere, Bass Pro, John Deere, Bass Pro. For people who don't understand the architecture of Foundry and what it truly can offer in India in any industry, I think that articulates it when you name retail stores and other things that this software is the core operating system for businesses. And if you look at the investor deck, one of the slides about the alpha that they were able to generate with customers who are just starting out and basing their business off of Foundry, opposed to trying to migrate all of their legacy IT investments and data into Foundry. Not that it's not going to eventually drive that alpha and it won't, grow and get better, but it says here, day zero companies are leapfrogging legacy IT investments and building on Foundry as the modern operating system. And I think you hit it so beautifully of this IT procurement is changing, right? Technology procurement and what systems you're running to modernize your business is changing. And you look at all these different companies are trying to build an ecosystem of products or provide modular approach to their products where you get them on the core product and then you bolt on all these different add-ons and grow their business. It's the world I work in. I work for VMware and work in cybersecurity sales. And everyone wants to have a platform, right? Because platforms are sticky. If I have you using the platform and you're getting value out of that platform, why wouldn't you buy other products of that platform to adopt? And so what we saw through that investor presentation, the deck, they are doing a very good job of this, and it shows with their current top customers and the additional revenue that they're spending. It's because they're getting more value out of the use cases. And that's what I really wanted to pay attention to. The numbers are great and we expect execution on the numbers. But what I wanted to see was, are we seeing a huge customer growth, especially in commercial with Foundry, which they highlighted the 90% growth in the US? I definitely agree with you that a lot of times the world will model what the US does from a tech perspective and the growth and how they implement things. So I do think they will get into other countries and they will continue to partner with Japan and see more adoption there. And then the other piece was, it was really nice to see their contract value 175% year over year growth to 925 million. Just a year ago, it was 337 million. So that was really exciting, and they're highlighting the different vehicles. And so there's not any other software that I've seen on the market that is so applicable at being at the core business model for the company. And regardless if you're retail, you're the government, if you're autonomous driving, you're taking data, which we know is growing exponentially and is going to continue. You can't argue that, but you can make that data usable and actually show return on investment consistently. That is how you keep customers for long periods of time, and they expand their spend with you. And I think they're doing a fabulous job of execution on this. I'll pass it to Jacob.
Hey, Jacob, please come on.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, Jacob, we can hear you.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. Yeah, I'm particularly impressed by by how distributed their customers are in terms of revenue, and as you mentioned, the $1 million deals. I was estimating around the same revenue. I had 172 million, but not nearly as many customers. So I was estimating 162 customers this quarter, and they came in at 169. So that if you break down the revenue per customer on a quarterly basis, they do it annually, and I think it's 8.1 million is what they had for this past year. But you can see a decrease if you boil it down to a quarterly basis. So this quarter, they came in at 2.2 million revenue per customer compared to last quarter of 2.29, and then the quarter prior 2.3. So they're actually, if you boil that down, they're really decreasing their revenue per customer on a quarterly basis, which means that it's much more distributed, really broadening their customer base and not so reliant on just a few. And I think that's easing a lot of analyst concerns. One kind of looming question that I think a lot of people had was, are the SPACs kind of forcing partnerships? And that I believe was the first or second question from one of the analysts on the call. How many of those new customers were from the deals that they've struck? And still, that was only seven customers of the 20. So that's still 13, even if you don't count the SPACs, 13 new customers outside of those partnerships compared to 11 the quarter prior. So, I mean, even if there is concern about any of those SPAC partnerships, what they're doing already is gonna outpace that dramatically. They just can't invest in that many partnerships going forward compared to how many they're going to acquire. But yeah, I think that's, from what I've seen so far and kind of picked apart, I'm most impressed by how many new customers they have. 11 last quarter, 20 this quarter. Yeah, that's huge growth, and it really prevents or it addresses one of the major concerns that Wall Street has. I'll turn it back over to you.
Hey, thanks, Jacob. I think that's excellent, man. I totally agree with you on this part. Is because they're adding more customers, and we are seeing that their customers are actually spending more money with them. So ideally, there should be two-layered revenue that comes with it. And guys, I mean, like, as we are moving forward, I think one thing we saw that the value of Palantir is more when we are seeing that they are disruption. And their disruptions naturally comes in two ways. The first is the disruption that we saw last year that came like a macro disruption in terms of COVID that happened. But then the disruption happens in the industry when how the things are done. For example, now things changing in big data or energy transition. That also forces companies to react faster. That means they have to shortcut or they have to reduce the time they are looking to make a decision. And these are exactly the situations where companies decide to take more top-down kind of a decision. I shared it in past that, I mean, like, I'm just trying to share a couple of mental framework I have to review Palantir. That you always think in terms of like breadth and depth. So breadth is, that means once a tool is deployed in an organization, how many people and how many value chain nodes it touches. So for example, if somebody using Microsoft Word in an organization, I think everyone uses it. The depth is that a total value a person create in that company or that value node, how much of that value is actually created from that tool. So when we look at a solution like Palantir, we see that it has a very high breadth because once deployed, it touches directly, indirectly, literally everyone in the company. And in a lot of cases, it creates an alpha value. So we see a tool that has the capability for high breadth and high impact. And there are actually very few tools like this which can actually exist in health. So it will have a high impact in most of the cases. One thing we always have to be careful also. I think this is something we as a Palantir investors we cannot neglect, and we always see that the negative narration that comes with Palantir. I mean, there is nothing to hide here. People have called Palantir the black box. Personally, I mean, all of us we discuss internally. We disagree with that kind of definition. I mean, what they are doing is super clear. The clients have the testimonials. They have numbers to back it up. They are handling some of the largest data sets that are present on the globe. But yeah, I mean, that narration from Wall Street is not going to go away, and they will always pitch it whenever there's a cloud of confusion around it. We have also seen some of very respected analysts and investors go online and they simply say that with Palantir they have issue on data privacy. It's funny at times because probably that's the only company that exists which has ever called or discussion on the data privacy or to build civil liberty framework in the data. But guys, I mean, irrespective of it, these narrations are not going to get away. And yeah, I think for time being, we just have to live with it when it happens.
I would agree. I was just going to say, Sakin, I was watching as they opened the bell today, and on CNBC they said that it's a black box and that they only had one page of earnings. And sure enough, the guy had the whole presentation there and just was missing it on his desk. But I don't think that a lot of analysts are doing enough DD and really taking the time to understand the business. I know that on the call they said a lot of investors don't understand the business, and Sankar said, I don't know why you don't understand the business because we're pretty clear on what we do and we have the customer use cases and everything else. Let me tell you, here are some of the successful things that we're doing to change the world. And then you see the partnerships, right? So for anyone to say it's a black box and this and that, we're seeing the use cases demonstrated throughout their presentation, their commercials, marketing. You also look at the partnership now that they're providing at scale with Data Robot just started. They also have been working with Accenture, the largest consulting business out there in the world for Accenture Federal. I would love to see them partner with their commercial side. They also have partnerships with IBM, and IBM having 2,500 salespeople pushing this message of really helping innovate in how businesses run their ERP with Palantir. So as they make more partnerships, and they also have partnerships with AWS too, I believe that the understanding of this platform and product and the value they offer will continue to be understood by customers. But maybe it's because they didn't go the traditional route when they IPO'd that Wall Street maybe has it out for them. But I agree with you. You're gonna have to endure this as well as the stock-based compensation. Everyone wanted to hit that on the head, and the reality is those options had to be exercised. So if you're a long-term investor, it's a good buying opportunity, but you are going to have to endure a lot of volatility for a while. I would agree.
I agree, Dom. I think very well said. Kevin, would you like to share your views as well? Hi, Kevin. I've brought you as a speaker. Let me know if you could hear me and you would like to share your views. Okay. In the meantime, Kevin connects and share. Let me just share a couple of other things, guys. I mean, see, you don't have to take our words. What do we think about black box, or what do we think about the street? I think the simple way where you try to litmus test it by yourself is, and make your own view about it is, see, when you look these numbers, so numbers like we are seeing today, these numbers are always the lagging indicators. That means you should see the signs first and the numbers later. So if you are driven all the time by numbers and not seeing the signs, probably most of the time when you go for investment, probably some of the best opportunities are missed. Now, when I'm looking for technology understanding, I'm not going to look for Mr. Jim Cramer or people who are sitting on CNBC. Actually, have you ever seen anybody going on CNBC or any mainstream media channel and asking Jim, tell me what strategy to follow? They don't ask because people who are sitting on these channels, I mean, most of them, they talk about strategy, they read about strategy, but probably have never executed or made strategy in their real life. See, you don't have to take our words. What do we think about black box, or what do we think about the street? I think the simple way where you try to litmus test it by yourself is, and make your own view about it is, see, when you look these numbers, so numbers like we are seeing today, these numbers are always the lagging indicators. That means you should see the signs first and the numbers later. So if you are driven all the time by numbers and not seeing the signs, probably most of the time when you go for investment, probably some of the best opportunities are missed. Now, when I'm looking for technology understanding, I'm not going to look for Mr. Jim Cramer or people who are sitting on CNBC. Actually, have you ever seen anybody going on CNBC or any mainstream media channel and asking Jim, tell me what strategy to follow? They don't ask because people who are sitting on these channels, I mean, most of them, they talk about strategy, they read about strategy, but probably have never executed or made strategy in their real life. People go on finance channel to tell Jim this is what we are going to do, and Jim is a spokesperson for them to actually tell it to its media what he thinks on the spot for it. Okay, I think it goes without saying that people at any group, like for example, even in my group and my jobs, you always work in a group, you always work in a cult and clubs. Like we have a community of volunteer investors, and most of us think alike. So it works everywhere. So the question for you is all the time is that if a company is going to become a monopoly or a $1 trillion company or a very large company, it will not happen overnight. And if it is not going to happen overnight, what are the simple signs you are going to look at? So we take some examples of companies like AWS, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Tesla. You see that there was one thing, few things were common, that these companies have always a constant buzz. They have a very inspiring leader along with them. They were generating better and number as the time was going on up there. You also see that the narration about these companies was not very clear in the media. I mean, I still remember when Facebook was doing IPO, everybody was saying, I mean, how these guys are gonna make money. I mean, we don't know about it. Nowadays, I think last quarter they generated like $50 billion of revenue or something like that. So the thing is, we're going when you're part of investment like Palantir, and there is no guarantee that Palantir will become that company. I mean, things can go wrong also. The geopolitical narrative itself can kill a lot of revenue, so we have to be aware of it. But we need to see these signs. As long as signs are consistent, that's a kind of a definition that this company is likely to go better than where it is today. Okay, I mean, how do I see it moving forward? I was watching this tweet from Puru, and he was sharing some of the analyst estimates about Snowflake, and they were showing like by the 2030, it should have nearly $20 billion in revenue. I mean, of course, like everybody else, I do modeling, and to me, that scenario seemed a bit extreme. But yeah, I mean, it's an estimate. I mean, it's not about right or wrong. It's model. Every model has a purpose. But when I was looking at that model, I said, if this is a scenario where Snowflake is going to get a $20 billion of revenue, then the market is far bigger than what I'm anticipating. If that is the case, that means my estimate for Palantirs are also wrong. So either the market is not that big, or it's far bigger than a lot of us have calculated. Analysts, and I mean, I've worked close to analyst community several times. In analyst community, there is always a bias factor, and the factor is people try to work out the numbers which are largely acceptable. That means if today I feel that Palantir will have a revenue of $20 billion by 2025, I will not say it. I will say what company is saying 4 billion. I'm bullish. Let me say something around 6 billion, 7 billion. If it goes even bigger than that, people will still remember me because I gave the highest estimate. So when these numbers come in terms of future, I think this is we need to take these numbers as the solid milestone, but as the indicative direction that this analyst or this person or is think that company has a higher upside than what a lot of other people are saying. Let's see what the logic look like for that. We also have to remember that these are not consumable which you buy without thinking. If a company is going to buy Palantir and is going to invest 30 to $40 million on it, I mean, they want performance and they want alpha performance. End of the day, are you seeing that? Are their clients coming forward and saying, yes, Palantir changed the game for us? And this is what we have seen in a lot of their clients like Airbus, Ferrari, Ring Gear. I mean, these are the kind of companies they come and they say, yes, since we adopted Palantir, the game has changed for us. Okay. One of the funny thing which I always say and find it, and guys, please back me up. I mean, if you agree with it, is people who don't like Palantir, they are the first in the line to say how strong it is. I mean, I remember I was on a Twitter Spaces, and the host of the Twitter Spaces says, I don't think they have a good software. Their software sucks. And the reason their software sucks is because LAPD use their software. So, I mean, if we are coming from a technical community, the question for us is, does LAPD has a record of using bad software, or you are against the software because you are not don't agree what LAPD is doing in terms of principle. So it's a if LAPD is doing something wrong, or if ICE is doing something wrong, or if any government or legislative or guy with a fiduciary duty is doing something wrong, it is the problem in the system. And if you start blaming a software company for that, if Alex Karp or Shyam Sundar is doing something unethical, okay, then yes, blame them. But blaming the problem of society or a problem of a particular system on a company, to me, I don't think it's fair. It's more political. And I mean, yeah, we can have different views about it. I personally endorse and agree with the Palantir stand that few people sitting on an island cannot decide what is going to be the right and what is going to be the wrong or how that is going to behave for rest of the world. They have their role in the community to share that dialogue and as everyone else. So this freedom has to go. This is a larger debate and everyone has to participate in it. Now, I agree and I stand by it. And this is one of the reason I love the company. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to buy it, but the risk is gonna stay. And Whereas we have seen in last 1 year that some of these risks and some of these narrations can go a long way. So if you are looking to be invested in Palantir for a long time, I mean, you have to be, yeah, just have to either accept it or be aware of it.